Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM, and if you're enjoying what you're seeing on the channel at the moment, how about giving this video a like and maybe subscribing to the channel to help us grow, and perhaps even check out our Patreon. And welcome back to episode 7 of the Building a Modular Railway Challenge. This one is the last in the series concentrating on the actual build of the modules, with a final episode coming up next week, which is going to look at actually assembling the whole layout at the Statfold show and how it all ran. So for those of you who got to the show and got to see it, well, you know how this all ends, but enjoy the ride anyway. And this series is sponsored by our friends over at Grange and Hodder, who supplied us with all of the boards that you'll see in this series. They make an amazing variety of baseboards, which takes the stress and anxiety out of making a solid start for your model railway. So go check out the website, it's over in the video description, and see some of the things that they make. This episode is also sponsored by our friends over at Cut Creative, who make a simply stunning array of high detail kits for multiple of scales, including 00 and N. They really do have to be seen to be believed, are easy to put together, and have a wonderful high level of detail. Just look at that. So a big thanks for them for helping out with this project, and go to their website to see the sheer variety of kits available. Well, it's done, and that made even less than I thought it was going to. They say it's deep bore for large areas, and they say it doesn't do much. It's like 300 millilitres, but you don't realise how little 300 millilitres is. I've done about that half and not come up anywhere near. I need to go find some more. Time for a sneaky peeky. Ooh. I'll tell you one thing, it's not very tinted, is it? But however, it looks pretty good. With time now seriously running out, I decided it was time to concentrate on priorities, and ended up detailing my track, individually painting every single chair with a deep bronze, because obviously I was mid-panic and this was far more important than actually putting any scatter down. And whilst I busy myself with this important project, let's check in on Lozz.
I've just realised I haven't filmed anything for like the last 2 days. It's 20 past 1 in the morning, which is why I look like utter crap. But I figured I should give you a quick update on the layout. I've got the windows in the workshop, all 18 of them. That took a long time. Every window had to be like trimmed and finagled into place. They didn't all fit perfectly, but that's probably because of the paint and things like that that has, you know, brought them out of trim. The signals are still in. I don't know, there's not really an update on those. Still not wired up, but they're looking good. I like them. The platform is done, mostly. It's just drying now from putting a final weathering coat, especially over like the strips there. You can see there where it's not gone quite right, but this is the side the operator stands on, has that view, so that won't be visible to the general public, so that's something I can fix after the show. The turntable pit has been painted, and I picked out the rail inside the turntable pit. This is a Pico turntable kit. In silver, it vaguely matches the rails. I don't think it's perfect, but it's good enough. That needs the drains putting in, and it needs weathering, but that's on the way. I also got a water tower, bam, and a water crane, bam. The problem is that water crane, hang on, I'll pull out Basra to show you, is a bit short. No, it's not an N gauge one, it is 00, but it's designed to go on top of the platform, and that's not how I want it to work, so I bought the wrong thing. I need to sort that out. And this, unfortunately, I was hoping it would sit there, but that is a bit close. It looks fine on like this 060 Basra, but the bigger Locos, especially something like the Hush Hush that has quite a lot of overhang at the front as it swings around, that will hit that. And so that then doesn't work. And it's the same problem if I put it there and think, oh yeah, that looks reasonable, you know, reasonable space there. But there's the point on the other side, and so again, it's anything swings around, it'll hit that. So that's unfortunately not going to work.
And whilst Lozz was dealing with the scenic aspects of his layout, I too was doing some scenic-y bits. So I've not actually offered this up to this since both were scenic. So one thing I do know is that these bits thus are a bit short. I gave myself a bit of leeway, so I need to put some rocks around this just to hide the gaps there. There are moments during this build which I suddenly go, oh wow, and this is one of them. Because look at that. Okay, so obviously I need to cover up the gap at the back there, but look at him in his little cave. Oh, am impressed. And obviously there's light coming through there, but I can live with that. Sometimes I'm amazed at the scope of my own genius. It's rare, but it does happen. My next job was now to populate my mine scene and cover up that gap between the rock face at the back and my misjudged floor, and this proved to be quite time consuming. And to give me a break from doing that, I gave my little loader a coat of wash. I used to do Warhammer, and one of the big things I remain a fan of are these shades, because this, well, I think this looks delicious. Look at that. No time or effort at all, just slapped on a couple of colours and coated it in the wash, and yes. And having completed putting the rocks in, I could start putting my new friends in their underground home. The man pushing his thing, the machine there, and the two blokes here. Now, the particularly cool thing about this is I've stuck my things together, and most importantly, I dropped one of the guys when I'd superglued his feet, and he fell on my phone screen. So I've ruined my phone, because all I see of myself now is this giant smudge across there. Any tips in the comment of how to get super glue off my phone screen, please? And it wasn't just me that things were going wrong for.
So, starting the wiring on the second board, I've just glued up and screwed in this little board here. Unfortunately, like the other one, I've got wires that come through the middle of this section, so I've had to route them out of the way. So what we've got to do is, for the time being, I've just screwed that in, then you just get cut in half, because this is going to be 3 negative and 3 positive per one. Need to work out where on this board I'm going to mount them, get them screwed in, route all the wires to it like we did over there, get it all looking nice and neat. My stuff has now arrived for tidying up the wiring properly, so rather than coating the underside in masking tape that only holds for about 20 minutes, we'll actually get it all tidied permanently, nicely into neat runs, get it all wired up correctly, and hopefully in the next day be able to put the boards back down, everything pretty much wired up underneath these boards, so it can just be plugged together and back to Scenics and testing and other such things as getting completely consumed in running trains and playing around like an idiot.
Meanwhile, so I wasn't really happy with my ballast, so as you can see I've removed a load of sections of it and installed new stuff, because well, admittedly when I put it down I didn't put the washing up liquid in, so it all clumped together and it really upset me. So rather than getting on with the rest of the scenery, I destroyed a load of ballast. And that meant that I had to go and revisit one of my favourite tasks: gently sweeping ballast away from the sleepers with a paintbrush. This is so tedious because every time you brush something, it then moves and covers up another sleeper. Like me, David was also doing battle with ballast and trying to get it down over his 2 separate modules. He'd also made a start on getting the scatter down to get some kind of landscaping going down on the 2 different sides of the bridge. And once he'd got the ballast kind of glued in place, he could start putting trees out, which meant that actually he was further ahead than I was on my main board. Right then, let's see what we have. Oh, actually, that's really good. So I've trimmed this off here, around there, and off there as well. This is kind of the level that it's no higher than that, so that'll be fine. Tucked there. The Dalek is turned. Actually looks pretty good. Actually looks really good. Really, really good. So it should come up to about, that's high, so I need to extend that up there. So what's happened is I've run out of sand to do the landscaping because I've used a lot more than I thought. So I went and got some builder's sand, but of course that's wet, so it doesn't really work. So I'm drying it out. Now I'm going to be honest with you. This is working really well. This is exactly what I was hoping for. It's becoming dry underneath. Oh, insanity. I cannot believe how well this has worked. I now have dry sand. I am so clever. And having finished cooking, I could apply my newly dried sand to the layout, which actually went really well, and it blended in remarkably well with the expensive modelling sand that I'd bought, meaning I'd probably just bought dried out normal sand which had been repurposed and sold as expensive modelling sand. And whilst I'd overcome the problem of a lack of sand, Charles had run into problems of his own.
One of these things is not quite like the other. I may have got carried away and put wire in the wrong place. This is evidently not black. Maybe I am going blind to red and black from the amount of time I've spent staring at this. I just want to play trains at this point. Before I go completely insane from wiring all of this up, because there is, well, this is board 1, this is board 2. That's all I did yesterday. My brain just totally fried. This is what I've done today, and my brain hurts so badly. I have genuine headache. I think I'm going insane.
And speaking of going insane, I should be in bed, but what am I doing? I'm cooking more sand. I'm cooking more sand. I should have done this hours, maybe days, maybe months ago. But now it's got to get to Statfold. So I'm cooking sand. I'm cooking sand. Oh, it's almost done. Some premium, nicely cooked sand in there. Oh yeah. And with my freshly dried sand, I was able to finish the base of my lake. And whilst I wait for it to dry, let's see if Lozz is having any success.
I haven't touched the traverses since the last update, so they still need cork putting on, track wiring, and working out like the locking mechanism to stop the traverses from sliding about while there's a Loco crossing. I know what I'm going to do. I think I have all the stuff for it. I hope. I just need to actually get a chance to do it, but I've been kind of full force on my boards. Dan spent a lot of today, like 4 hours, 5 hours, just going to different model shops in the area to try and get the bits that I need. I think I've got everything now, though. I think. This is the museum board. When you last saw it, it was pretty much in the same place, but again, work on wiring. The wiring has moved further on. All the points are now wired up. Admittedly, there's only 2 on this board. The signals, the 2 starter signals for the platform are just being left. Whether they'll get wired up before the show or not, I don't know. They're a low priority. And again, I just need to wire up banana plugs, and then we're good. So at that point, I can then properly get going decorating the board, because at the moment, it's literally got the concrete slab, a platform, and the signals. That's it. Decorating shouldn't be too difficult. It needs ballasting, a little bit of terrain work, and some buildings put in place, which are mostly built. Over on this board, however, things are looking much more close to finished. The ballast is in, which makes a massive difference. Just ballasting it, suddenly it's looking a lot more nearly done than before. I started painting the turntable bridge. It's not done. I think the effect is kind of working. I'm not too sure on these individual planks I picked out. I'm hoping that a black wash will solve all my problems and hide my sins. But we'll see. I built most of this bridge. The other supports are painted and dry, but it needs a bit of custom work to make fit properly, because as you can see, first of all, it's an S shape. That's not how bridges normally work. Because of the weird space requirements, basically it has to sit there. So I've also had to modify this bridge. Lovely L-cut kit, very easy to modify, which is brilliant, to be shorter, because otherwise this side with that there would be landing basically dead on this rail, which is not brilliant. So that now sits there. That's just fallen off. It wasn't very well glued, apparently. I think we're getting there. It doesn't feel it, but I think it's a combination of I've got quite a few things ready and sorted in the background, like the bridge, like the walls for the museum, that kind of stuff, that as soon as I can access the museum to work on it, once the wiring's finished, I can just hit it and be done relatively quick. The main thing that's going to be slowing me down basically is drying times, because it's things like the ballast. It takes a good 24, 48 hours to properly dry, and I don't have ballast halfway through, so that point isn't ballasted yet.
And with Lozz making some really good progress, I finally made a start on actually getting some of the scenic components of my board down with some static grass. What colour static grass had been described in the book that we all had, so the edges of the board at the very least had to be laid with this stuff. And so I was doing a small area just to try it out and see what it would be like, and got carried away and added a bit of hedgerow and a tree onto it just to get a feel of what I was going to try to do. And feeling relatively content, I decided to fill in the gap that I'd missed, completing one edge of the board and going right up to the ballast, which by this point had dried, so I could use a hoover to remove any unstuck particles of static grass. I also added a couple of rocks in there just for visual interest and to break up the landscape. On the other side, I decided to test a layer of flock. It was my plan to coat the whole layout in this, so I wanted to see how it would look. I then added a few more rocks for that visual interest and put a layer of PVA glue over the top of them so that when I applied the static grass, it would adhere to the top of the rocks, meaning they'd look kind of mossy covered and like they're meant to be there, rather than somebody's just randomly scattered some coal onto the layout. David, too, had been planting trees.
Okay, those trees are supposed to be pink. They are looking quite orange on camera. Once the bridge module goes in there, obviously it will be a much bigger gap between the two modules there. I'm thinking, put the path so it goes down there, looping around there, between these trees, then I'm not around there, and I'm not sure which side of that tree to go.
Certainly a terrible problem to have, but not quite as big as the problems that Charles was having.
So from the mildly chaoticness on here, I'm trying to keep it as organised as possible while not permanently attaching all of these yet, hence the masking tape. So we've got all of the negatives for the yard power. The positives are all going to have the isolating switch on them, so they all are loose currently there and there to feed back into the controller box individually, because that's where the switch is going to be. That's not there. As long as there's a break in the circuit, it's fine, and that is where the break's going to be on them, so they are all in there. That's one wire. That has eliminated literally 10 wires going to the control box, so I'm happy with that. We've got the up line, positives and negatives, the down line, positives and negatives, and then point for the yard, the frog feeds, so positive and negative for them. So that feeds that one, that one, that one, and that one there. Those two are on the main line, so they're going to get fed like this from everything else. And then I've got to go back and do the yard point on that point motor. Is just going to come feed through as regular. That one's mainline, so it's plugged into the wires for that dropper, and it's going to come all back by itself to the controller down there and be sorted out like that. So all that's left, aside from regaining my sanity, I've got to swap out all of this masking tape for these clips, make it a little bit neater. I've got to sort out a couple of little bits more of the wiring on here and tidy it up. This is literally just track power and the feeds for the frogs to the point motors. There's no accessory power. The circuit for the point motors is not done, and the controllers themselves are not done, and then the control panel's not yet done. That's why there's all of these wires down here. So if at the Statfold show I'm mumbling in a corner, this is why.
We were now entering the final few days before this layout had to be finished, assembled and on show at the Statfold Barn Model Railway exhibition, so I was working on getting my flock down. I was using a variety of different colours with the hope that this would show through underneath the static grass and make it all a bit more believable. So there we go. It is not complete by any means, but the ground cover is down. Now this is the first level. I'm going to put some more static grass over all of this. Obviously I've got to add the water, finish adding water to that, and hide this abomination because that's awful at the moment. But I'm going to stop for the night now because A, I've run out of glue, B, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and at this point in time it's like tomorrow has got to go to the show. God.
Now, visually, not masses has changed. Some bits have, but not massive. The big thing is that it works. I've got some yard junk, tin hut, old boiler, wheels, crates, that kind of thing, and put dirt down in the yard. It's finished it off quite nicely. There's a few more. I think it looks a little bare. Could use with some more just junk and some grass and things, but that's acceptable. That's show acceptable. This area and this area, not ready. Need grass. This area is supposed to be a picnic area with a bridge coming up to here. I broke the bridge, so I don't have time to get that sorted. Sorry. Ugh. It's a beautiful kit, well built. I'm just an idiot. So yes, that may not happen, but we'll still grass it and try and get it looking reasonable for the show. Also, small water tower. Very pretty. Right. I have things staged because I'm about to show you it working. Very exciting. Over here, we have the museum back wall, the museum itself. This works except for this point. I need to get this point working. It's on the list. This little platform here is in, so the bridge now sits where it should. Very good. Yes, coming around here, we have... Oh, yeah, I made little toilets. There's nothing actually in there, but, like, it looks like hallways, right? I was quite pleased with that. Anyway, control board. A lot of switches. This is just things like changing point. So if I hit this one here... that point changes. Hey! This essentially controls what controller, because I have 3 controllers for 2 sections, plus the turntable. So this one is for the main line. So at the show, this will be controlled by another board. So that's what that's choosing, whether it's on another board or one of those controllers. Those 2 are for the yellow and the blue areas, those 2 controllers, deciding whether they're DCC or DC. At the moment, they're DC, which is those 2. DCC would be that one. That one is the turntable bridge, and just deciding if it's controlled by the yard controller or the demonstration line controller. Very cool. But the real thing that we all want to see is it work. So, this controller, make sure the areas are turned on that we're going to use. This area is currently isolated because that's DCC. The 55 is DCC because I'm going to show you with DCC working. Hell yeah. Okay, so forward and... away we go. Perfect. And now we isolate this section where the Loco sat. Double check it's isolated. Train no move. Good. Now, we switch the demonstration line, because that's the yellow where things are, over to DCC. And then we turn these on. DCC Loco. DCC controller. You're going to have to believe that one, Lawrie. Righto. Back under we go. Oh, at least it's a simple amount of wires. I'll send help.
Back in Suffolk, things were going significantly better.
We're getting there slowly. Just all of that to fill and all that to Scenic, although I have done a bit of greenery down there to make it look a bit more... Oh, better cover that up.
So it was time to break up the pliers, some PVA glue, some lichen and some rocks to bring that all together. And then I could get the static grass applicator fired up again and cover this section of the layout. Once I got the grass done, I could attach the fence. Now this was a big step for me because it was the first item that wasn't just grass or a tree or a bit of hedge. This was part of turning it into a real layout. And with the fence in place, I could continue with applying the static grass over the top of my poorly made mounting. And it's amazing the difference that this made. It went from being a paper mache lump to actually looking something like a bit of landscape. What made it all the better was adding the lichen, the hedges, a couple more little rocks, and then installing the trees. And suddenly, before my eyes, this turned into something proper.
I am so happy with how this is looking. I've only got the rest of the layout to do, but this is looking good.
And whilst I was up burning the midnight oil to ensure that my layout was finished, Lozz was doing the same by constructing the last of his buildings, this superb signal box by L-Cut. And it includes such features as a fully detailed interior, including the lever frame, and Lozz did a super job of putting this thing together, which marked the end of his build. I, on the other hand, wasn't quite so lucky.
So part of the problem I'm having at the moment is this part here. Because this doesn't have so many layers of paper mache on it, it's a bit more flexible, and that's bad for all of these pine trees because they're all just push a bit into the side of the hill rather than having a base, which means great because you can make them stand up straight when they're not on the level surface, but also because the surface is a bit flexible, they keep falling over.
Wonky trees aside, I was making really good progress. Covering my flock with a mix of PVA and water, I was ready to apply a mix of static grass. I had various different lengths and different shades to help mix it up and look a little bit more natural. And I was really pleased with the result, using the applicator to lift it up and get it actually standing up. I did it in sections to ensure that the glue didn't have a chance to dry out, and soon I'd managed to cover the entire layout with my mix of static grass, and I was really pleased how you could see some of the flock underneath coming through. It was all coming together. As you guys know, it is a rare day that something I set out to do actually ends up being more or less what I set out to do. I've got to put in some more resin, which I'm terrified about. But basically, oh, and like 100 trees. Basically, it's there. Some of the members of the club were a tad more organised than the others. Dave and Becca and Tag were so advanced with their modules that they took them out to a local show to give them a test to make sure that everything lined up and they functioned as they should. So whilst I was panicking, trying to get everything done, these guys were sleeping easy because they'd proven that everything functioned just as they planned and were having a lovely time. It also meant that they cheated and managed to meet up and see each other's modules before the grand unveiling at Statfold Show. On the other hand, it did mean at the very least for the Statfold Show we would have at least 2 modules that functioned as they were meant to. And I was determined that mine would be finished, so that meant it was time to get gardening and plant a load of trees. And when I say a load, I mean an absolute load. I had over 100 trees to try and install in various parts all over this layout to create a sweeping scene into the scenic break. I mean, I'm genuinely quite impressed. Only, the other half to do. I was now seriously beginning to run out of time, but with every tree that I planted, the end became closer in sight, giving me more motivation to keep on going. And slowly, the vision that I'd had was becoming real. Yeah, okay. I'm impressed. So I've just got this area to do. This is going to be flowers. I'd scattered a selection of flowers throughout the layout, but this was going to be a real clump of them together, and they were a real pain to fit. Right, so it is gone midnight. I really, really want to add the next level of resin. I really do. But if I don't, it means it's definitely dry, it can't go wrong, and it can't spoil something I'm very happy with, and we'll just go that there's been a drought. In fact, that was Lozz's idea. So when I was talking to him and said, don't know if I'm going to get the resin done, he said, well, can you get away with pretending it's a drought? So it's a drought. That's what's happened. It's the middle of summer. There's a drought. That's why there's so many dead trees. And it means I can't ruin it. It can't go wrong. It's done. It's done. So that's the end of this video. Hopefully it'll go together. That'll be the final installment. Will be the setup at the show and how it all goes together. And with that, thanks for watching, guys. Coming up on the screen are some of the other videos, including the Statfold Model Railway show last year. Do you think this is going to work? Is it even tested? I do need to clean the track, because that's now just glue. This is a wonderful photo plank.